Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. Climate change is of course one of very major issues of today. We'll be talking about its ramifications for Pakistan, considering the floods at this time, considering the torrential rains and that have resulted in the havoc that we've seen in Karachi, southern Punjab, Sindh, Balochistan overall. What are the ramifications of this phenomena? Are we prepared for it? What are some of the measures we've seen the government take? All of that today on Perspective. We'll also be delving into the detail of what we can do for the next couple of years, what we can do to safeguard ourselves in the advent of the kind of climate change that we are experiencing. The world overall is experiencing all of that today on Perspective. I have with me Dr. Shaukat Ali, who's a climate change weather expert. Thank you for joining us. We also have with us Sadiq Farooq, who is a communication specialist, Sadiq Humayun, communication specialist, CRCC Studio. Thank you for being with us. Munir Ahmed, who's a climate change expert. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Shaukat Ali, who's a climate change weather expert. Thank you for being with us today. Humayun Sahab, as far as the overall situation, as far as the advent of climate change is concerned, it's not new, certainly, but the way that we've taken it perhaps needs to be delved into. Are we prepared? Are we not prepared? Next year also, we see a couple of years and, we see the kind of rains that happen, we see the kind of havoc that is created, the lives that are lost, all of those things. How prepared are we, in your opinion, today?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me on your show. I think climate is one of the gravest concerns for Pakistan, and if I'm not wrong, it appeared in a Foreign Affairs article nearly 2 decades ago that the greatest threat to Pakistan is not terrorism. At that time, terrorism was a very big thing, but it is climate change.
Okay.
And it's been nearly 20 years that we continue to see, flash floods, exploding glaciers, cloud bursts, and nothing seems to be done. I think what we need is a comprehensive policy from the government, a long-term policy, not just 1, 2, 3 years, where we're looking forward to maybe 1 or 2 or 3 decades, and how to mitigate that, and how to adapt to different situations of climate in Pakistan. I believe what we're lacking right now is that comprehensive policy, and what we're doing is we're reacting to what happens in Pakistan. Instead of being a proactive nation where we prepare for the next year, we know that this flash flood is going to happen in 2023 as well. But are we preparing for that? No, we're not. In 2023, this will happen, and then we'll again be sitting here talking about that 120 people have died in Balochistan, which is a tragedy, and now what we should do. So in my opinion, I think what we need to do is be more proactive and work towards a longer goal instead of just reacting to what's happening.
Let me go to Munir Sahab. Munir Sahab, do you agree with this? You think that we don't have a proactive approach, we're reacting, which is what Humayun Sahab is saying. As far as being prepared is concerned, as far as our preparedness is concerned, comprehensive policy, as we were earlier also talking about it, it's certainly one of the main concerns today all over the world. Do we, in your opinion, have a comprehensive policy? Are we working towards a comprehensive policy at all? Are we taking it seriously enough, in your opinion?
First of all, I would thank Prithvi for taking up this issue again. You said if we are proactive or not. We are not very proactive.
Okay.
You mentioned secondly, if we have any comprehensive policy or not. Yes, we have.
Okay.
Pakistan prepared a climate task force in 2009, and then prepared a national climate policy in 2012, and followed by Act and Authority and Climate Action Program. But unfortunately, we could not pursue whatever we agreed at national level.
Okay.
And less was seen in implementation.
Okay.
Though we had a national action plan, but that was prepared by the Nawaz Sharif government. So it was shelved in the previous government. And though they have launched a very proactive programs, but unfortunately we could not see the impact we were looking for.
But you're saying that the continuation, that
And
would have
the-
perhaps resulted in better
Yes,
preparedness didn't happen.
that is much
for
better. Like
political
if
reasons.
the policies continue and the action plans continue beyond the party lines and beyond the politics of that we have. And meanwhile, we also lack, besides policies, we also lack community voices.
Okay.
People don't raise voice for themselves. I always ask, like, until you don't cry, you demand positively with solutions and to the government and to the provincial government and to the local governments, you will not get required funds and the actions done. We have national management, National Disaster Management Authority and the provincial authorities and the district authorities even. And most of them lack resources and the early warning systems.
I want to go into the NDMA and how empowered it is and whether they have enough resources and all that in a bit. But let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Dr. Shaukat ji. Dr. Shaukat, do you agree? You think that as far as, what Munir Saab is saying in terms of, whether shelving a project for political reasons or not, let's leave that aside. But overall, as far as this, raising a voice is concerned, we are seeing the disaster that we are seeing all over the world, particularly in Pakistan. Let's talk about Balochistan, for example. Let's talk about the devastation that's happening in, towards southern Punjab, in areas of Sindh also. Those people are asking for help. How can we say today that those people are not asking for help? It is, of course, the responsibility of the government, and we've seen, of course, Shehbaz Sharif Saab go yesterday also, and to take it up as far as these kind of, to extend whatever help the federal government can. But do you agree with the fact that they're not asking for help?
Yeah, there are two things in this. That first, at local scale, that in Pakistan, we can do it from top to bottom and bottom up. Top to bottom are those actions that government already taken or in process. As Munir Saab mentioned that there is climate change policy, there are a lot of action, but the implementation is still needed. Like we
do you think that when he talks, sorry, let me interject here, but do you think that it means, as far as NDMA is concerned, as far as other disaster authorities are concerned, do we need to restructure them, empower them more to deal with this, give them more funds? What is lacking, or overall you think everything needs to be worked
That
out?
is one side, but another side is that when you make an authority, so the implementation needs an authority. When there is a concern of climate change, so we have Climate Change Act, and under that act we have authority, that is Climate Change Authority, and that authority need to be active in this situation especially. So that is the top-down approach, that the government make the policy, it's come to the people. As Munir Saab also mentioned that we should bring change in our behavior. That thing is from bottom-up approach, that the people got aware, they raise the voice, and these voices goes towards government. And now the coupling of these two things make good steps towards this thing. But the main thing is this is an international issue. Like we have Paris Agreement, that's very important. This point is very important because the commitment that we have made to reduce climatic impacts or the contribution to climate change from Pakistan, that is conditional. That we mentioned in our NDC's document that we submitted to UNFCCC. And until we not get funds from international community, unfortunately, international community is, I don't know why they are hesitating to transfer the funds from developed country to developing country. So, but we can't, now the situation is do or die. So we shouldn't wait for that international fund, and we should start from ourselves, and we can help each other, and we can speak to our kids, we can speak in our city, and we can arrange some program for awareness.
As far as awareness is concerned, when we talk about awareness in a country like Pakistan, where I will come back to, let me go to Siddiq Humayun Sahab. Ji, Humayun Sahab, in terms of awareness, certainly we want to inculcate awareness in our society, but there's an education factor also. And in a country, developing country, underdeveloped country like Pakistan, where of course we don't have money to eat to begin with, climate change doesn't seem to figure at the top of an ordinary person's agenda, and to empower, give them that kind of knowledge isn't an easy task. Do you agree?
I agree, and I think it is, again, one of the most important things regarding climate change and in Pakistan is that financing.
Okay.
Pakistan is perhaps 1% contributor on the larger scale in the world towards climate change. However, it is consistently in the top 10 list of the countries that are most vulnerable to climate.
Okay. Because of why? Because of where we are
yes,
placed?
because of our geographical location,
okay.
because of how we are placed in the world. And the problem then comes that even though we're not contributing towards that change, which is causing this havoc in the country, we still have to adapt and mitigate, and we need resources for that, and that we don't have that capacity. So that for that capacity, more developed countries, wealthier nations of the world, they
need to step up, you're saying.
They have to step up, and there are funds. There is the Green Climate Fund, there's JEF. We need to tap into those resources. These are multi-billion-dollar funds. And I think the fact that we're not tapping into these resources is a problem.
Okay.
So
why are we not tapping into them? Let's talk about that. Why are we not, is it an effort which the government needs to make, the various organizations are not making? Where is the problem?
So, okay, I will explain it in this manner that the Green Climate Fund, the GCF, it is more than $10 billion fund, and they give millions of dollars, up to $250 million to various countries. And India and Nepal, they have been very beneficial of these funds. However, in Pakistan, we've only managed to get 3 or 4 projects, I think. And that's because they deal with an accredited institution in the country. And in Pakistan's case, there are only two institutions that are accredited with the GCF. One is a National Rural Support Program, NRSP, and the other is JS Bank because of the financial instruments involved. So we do not have another entity in the country that is accredited that can actually go to GCF and ask for those funds. So this is where the government needs to step up, where the other organizations relevant to climate need to step up, and they need to tap into not just GCF, other lending bodies, and apply for those grants, those concessional loans, those equities, and then utilize those into the country and try to mitigate and adapt to our
Okay, let me come back to you. We have with us Brigadier Dr. Fayaz Hussain Shah, who's former director NDMA. Fayaz Sahab, first of all, there has been criticism as far as the NDMA is concerned also. But in your opinion, overall, as far as the NDMA is concerned, are you, as an authority, is the NDMA well equipped to handle the kind of disasters that we are seeing? Is there preparedness for the future calamities that may happen? And is there a lack of funds? Where is the problem, in your opinion?
Thank you very much for inviting me to this program, Perspective. Basically, I shall not be talking about NDMA because I am not part of it now. Sometime back, I was part of the organization. But I shall be talking about the present situation and what impact we are having of this monsoon flooding. How would we move forward? How should government move forward? How should we be managing the situation? Now, I should be talking about this. First of all, we are into monsoon. Climate change is a phenomena which is impacting us adversely. The rains are uncertain. Rains are intense. The magnitude of water which we are receiving in different forms has intensified. There are 4 types of floods which we are having at present. One is the riverine flood. Second is urban flooding. Third is the torrential rains and the flash floods. And fourth one is normal rains, what we are suffering at present. Now, if you see in different districts, in different provinces, starting from Balochistan, the sort of destruction which we have suffered in the districts of Khuzar, Kalat, Job, Mastung, and the flash floods there, torrential floods. Then the Lasbela and Jalmaksi districts have suffered flooding. This is a catastrophic rain and the flooding which we have seen in Balochistan. Likewise, if we just move towards the next affected area is your KPK. In KPK, there are again three forms of flooding: flash flooding, Kabul River swelling, and the district of Nushaira and Char Sadda being affected, and the rains, of course, affecting the province. Then we have Punjab, the southern Punjab, which has been affected, and now, according to latest advisory by NDMA, flood level in River Chenab is moving from medium to high flood. So this is a situation across the country. Now I would come to that. What is the state? What are we doing at present? We should have been prepared for this catastrophe. This is number one, because the disaster risk reduction regime, if it is correctly applied, we would have been proactive. We would have been exactly knowing what type of rains and what type of floods we are going to encounter where. I feel we are lacking behind this very domain. This is number one. Number two, the advisories which are being issued by different PDMAs, may that be in Balochistan, KPK, or Punjab, those are not really being adhered to. Those are not being truly implemented. May that be evacuation of people from low-lying areas, from torrential Nala areas. May that be evacuation of the cattle herds. We are suffering not many casualties. The precautionary measures which we were supposed to take are not of that level. I mean, just to mention, we have suffered over 300 casualties across the country. So what we have to do at present, that all those measures which are being advocated by NDMA, by PDMAs, by DDMAs, those need to be ensured. Otherwise, we would keep suffering human casualties and the animal casualties and the losses in the form of damages, in the form of destruction of the houses and infrastructure. To my understanding, the proactive interventions which we should have done have not been properly done. At least now we should be properly responding to the situation which at times appear wanting and really not to that level which we expect and the gravity of situation warrants. That is my understanding of present situation.
Right. Please stay with us. I'll come back to you. I'm going to go to Shaukat Sabji. Shaukat Sab, do you agree? You think that, of course, you know, it's largely as far as being more prepared is concerned. I think we all agree that perhaps a proactive approach, which is essentially what Pyasab is also saying, is missing. But again, you know, I don't want to go into a circular argument, but if we want to begin today, in your opinion, where do we start for effective measures to be taken to perhaps tackle the next disaster that may occur, or you know, it seems will surely occur?
Let me tell you first that what's the problem.
Okay.
Pakistan is most vulnerable. In our research, I'm not talking about German watch. Okay. I'm talking about my research. We have yesterday published one paper.
Okay.
According to our research, we have 2-degree increase in temperature in last 40 years in March, April and May.
Okay.
This is a huge increase. Then we have the
and this is across the board in Pakistan.
It's across in Pakistan. It's an average in Pakistan.
Okay.
But the North Pakistan, that was considered the safe area where we have the term Karakoram anomaly, that some glacier are expanding. And it was due to temperature decrease, because from 1960 to 1990 there was slight decrease in temperature in that Karakoram region. But our recent findings shows that in last 10 years there is increase in that temperature.
Even in that Karakoram area?
Yeah, even the Karakoram area that was considered as safe, it's not safe now. So there will be more flooding due to this reason. Other thing that we are calculating the extreme events and temperature increase for Pakistan, and the situation is very alarming. That there is 5-degree increase in Pakistan, while the world increase, the global average increase is 4 degrees. So we are 1 degree ahead.
In terms of,
temperature increase. Yeah. The second thing, the Paris Agreement targets that every country is handling. So the Paris Agreement targets of 1.5.2 degree reaching Pakistan 10 years earlier. This is again very alarming. These are findings for our published paper, international published paper that is published in American Journal. So Pakistan is already impacting in observed data, already impacting in the climate models data. So what the steps needed, these are very important. So the thing is that Pakistan is committed with the Paris Agreement. Every government is trying to decrease the greenhouse gas emission, but in Pakistan we need more adaptation instead of mitigation, because if we go for the mitigation, this is the global effect. But
in terms of, I mean, as a term, when you talk about adaptation, that means that we need to take measures to adapt to the changing environment at this time.
Exactly.
So that would mean essentially, very basically, Munir Saab, what would it mean?
Definitely, like what kind of conditions we are facing, we have to adapt it. For example, like if we have a fear of disasters, floods, definitely we shall be preparing accordingly. And secondly, to take such kind of measures like which can be ensure the safety from the loss, human and for the cattle. And some years back, Ndma launched and got approved from the cabinet disaster insurance policy. And it was way back, I think 2012 or 13 again. But it's about 10 years. We don't see any implementation of that disaster risk insurance policy. And the most important thing that we were talking about.
And that implementation should have come from where? From the government?
From the government.
Okay.
And that it was like a little bit premium will be contributed by the parties, by the communities. If there are very like downtrodden communities, they will not be contributing to. That was there was a very comprehensive mechanism of disaster risk insurance. And but most of the premium were to contribute by the government. That was a comprehensive insurance for the cattle, for the infrastructure, for the lives, but 10 years down the lane and we could not implement it. Secondly, as Dr. Saab mentioned, that we are the most, among the most vulnerable nations. Their research may be uplift the vulnerability, but the German watch said that Pakistan is the 5th most vulnerable. And it was like last year or maybe
in 2020.
In 2020. That is the situation. The world community recognized the vulnerability of Pakistan to disasters and to climate impact. But what lacks you earlier? You mentioned that why we are not getting funds. Firstly, our bureaucrats are not that competent to prepare such kind of mega projects. They are not technical parties of from Pakistan, and they don't have right knowledge, and they cannot or they don't speak the right language the international community understand. And other is they are not very proactive. They are doing their jobs and that's it. But even what kind of jobs? They just routine things. They are not very proactive bureaucrats.
You're
And
saying, that
thirdly,
you're saying that there are bureaucratic hurdles, there's
bureaucratic
not
hurdle,
a proactive
and
approach.
we got only like 3-4 projects with the support of UNDP. UNDP basically contributed all these technical things, but instead of any proactive role of Pakistan's bureaucrat, our political leadership is always very proactive.
But is it because it doesn't take priority?
It is on the priority,
okay.
But in the last 4 years, bureaucracy was on the red list. It's very corrupt and this and that and so on, and they were not signing any paper, and they were not taking any such kind of things.
Okay.
Even before, if we go, they always try not to take lead until they are pushed to take the lead. Okay. And we have a wonderful partner.
But that's a general bureaucrat problem, isn't it? I mean, it's just so to
no, it's not just. We have some very good bureaucrats as well, like the National Disaster Insurance Policy and the National Disaster Management Authority was strengthened by the civil bureaucrats. It's not like that. It's not like all of them, but those who are responsible to take the lead, they should take. They should have a technical knowledge and how to pitch these ideas. And the other point that international community observe, that is how you spend money. If you get progress as you promise in the document, or you spend money very rationally. So there are few things that we need to correct, and I hope then we will be able to. The last thing that, as Shaukat Sahab mentioned, adaptation. National Disaster Management Authority was meant to prepare communities before disasters happen.
But is it because, that's what I want to come to. Let me go to Humayun Sahab on this. Humayun Sahab, NDMA, the fact that whether, whatever we may call it, the fact that we're not prepared, we talk about we don't have the kind of proactive approach that is needed, all of those things are not there, sort of takes us to NDMA. We have to sort of, look at that. We have to acknowledge that there is an authority that was created, and therefore, in your opinion, not making it political, but in your opinion, what is the problem? Is it not empowered enough? Because we've seen successive governments changed. It's not about one government, but the lack of preparedness has to do with what, in your opinion?
Okay, so I think the issue comes down to resources again. NDMA has, our Met Department, NDMA, they have consistently warned us of floods, of flash floods, of cloudbursts and everything. But then when it comes to the actual thing happening, we lack that proactive approach to be there on the ground before it happens.
Where does the NDMA get their resources from? Do they have a fund? Do they? I want to, let me see if Brigadier Fayaz Sahab is here. Brigadier Fayaz Sahab, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm there.
I know you don't want to talk about NDMA, and that's fine, but because you have a background and you've worked with them, could you tell us a little bit, where do the funds come as far as the NDMA is concerned? And does it have a sufficiency of funds? Has there ever been a problem there also? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Manur, I would like to really dwell on something else, what other respected participants
just a technical question. I'm just asking a technical question. Where do the funds come from?
I would give you that answer, but there are certain misunderstandings which are being talked about. I would try to correct those.
Okay, please. I want to go to Humayun Sahab. Humayun Sahab, please have patience.
To my understanding, I would not really blame bureaucracy. No. To me, the problem lies somewhere else. Problem lies at policy, conceptual and structural level. Just imagine, when we talk of NDMA is dealing with disasters in a way that those disasters pertain to all the hazards which we have, may those be from climate change, hydrometeorological hazards, may those be from geophysical earthquakes, or anything which we talk about happening in Pakistan would be dealt by them. Then we have Ministry of Climate Change, which purely is dealing with climate change adaptation and climate change mitigation. Now, these two organizations at ministerial level are moving sort of independently, and they're not integrated at policy and conceptual level. To me, this is the biggest setback with Pakistan, that we have not integrated conceptually the disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. This is number one. Number two, if you just see, when we talk of disaster risk reduction, we have prevention regime, we have mitigation regime, we have preparedness regime, we have response regime. Now, as far as climate change is concerned, we have climate change adaptation and climate change mitigation regime. Now, these two sets of regimes are being implemented by two different set of organizations. To me, the absence of integration between these two institutional frameworks is the major reason that we are suffering as far as the disaster prevention or disaster management is concerned. Now I come to NDMA itself, that why NDMA is suffering, and you talked about from where NDMA gets the funds. Now we need to understand NDMA is not an executive authority. It is just a coordinating body. The executive authorities are PDMAs and DDMAs. And the major disconnect is that DDMA does not exist on ground. It is just ad hoc arrangement. The people from Revenue Department have been given additional responsibility. Absence of grassroots level organization from the framework is major reason that we are not able to really prevent or mitigate disaster. Now, as far as NDMA is concerned, they do not get any funds from anywhere. They just get funds for relief operations. They get funds for response operations. As far as prevention, proactive management of disasters is concerned, MAHRUKH, that is not with the NDMA. That is with different ministries, and that is with the provinces. Now, having talked about this, now I would let you know that since we, as a result of 18th Amendment, this complete responsibility has gone to the provinces, the onus lies on provinces, the onus lies on districts, onus does not lie on NDMA. That is the disconnect which we have not correctly been able to understand, and then our responses are short of desired level. This I thought that I should put horse before the cart.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll come back to you. Ji, Humayun Sahab, how would you respond to that? Okay, so if there was one measure that could be taken, granted, of course, after the 18th Amendment, it is the province's purview and they have to take relevant measures and all of that. I think it's a good thing that, Fayaz Sahab has clarified the role of NDMA. But overall, then where do we start? That's a problem, right?
Okay, so what Fayaz Sahab said was basically that NDMA is doing the reactive approach. So it's responding to the disaster when it has happened. But we need to be more proactive in the sense that we need to understand when it will happen and then be prepared for it. So in that sense, I think there are lots of examples, even of Bangladesh. In 1971, soon after Bangladesh was created, they had a massive flood where hundreds and thousands of people lost their lives. And in 2009, I think, or recently, 1 or 2 decades ago, they had this, in the same place, they had the same flood again. Same level of flood, but only 27 people died. So there's actually an article on that where it says that Bangladesh is an example for countries to learn about early warning systems, about mitigation, about climate, and it has made itself an example of that. And then how's that done? I think lots of community participation, lots of interest from the government, from the federal government, and yes, it has become a provincial subject, but the funding for that, the help from that,
and the allocation, of course, has to come from the center.
And the direction has to come from the federal government and from the center. So I think the government, in that sense, needs to be more proactive. And it is understandable what Munir Sahab was saying earlier, that the bureaucrats have not shown as much interest, because there is a feeling that if you're sent to the climate ministry, you're being just sent to the back burner.
I want to come to that. It's not one of the coveted positions.
Yes.
And it's not, and therefore it is sidelined. The awareness issue is of course there. Munir Sahab, isn't that true? I mean, it's not one of those, like I said, it's not a coveted position to be sent there. The way we look at it has to change also for it to be given priority.
Of course you are right. As our friend Fayaz Saab was mentioning, Climate Change Ministry is basically a policy framing entity basically. And they frame policies and action plans for entire Pakistan. And then there are different organizations they implement. NDMA gets funds from the federal government, and earlier it was under the direct Prime Minister's supervision. And late last year, we were hearing that it would be placed under Ministry of Climate Change, because now most of the disasters are climate induced. I have no idea, like if it was changed, it was placed under the Ministry of Climate Change or not. And secondly, it is a wrong perception that they don't get funds. They have a huge network, and they have foreign federal government's funding. And besides that, there is a National Disaster Risk Management Fund. They, fund different projects in different provinces to strengthen preparedness.
Does it need to be more empowered? A simple question, yes or no, in your opinion. Shaukat Saab.
We can move forward, and we should have some cross-sectoral policies.
What does that mean? Even I don't understand it.
That means that suppose the climate change is claiming that they issued a climate change policy. So the rest of the departments, like they give some work for health ministry, suppose that these are the responsibilities for health ministry, and health ministry is informed that these are the responsibility and you should come to meetings, and we will plan to how we can couple these things. So the coupling of the different departments and different ministries are very important, because every ministry claim that we are heading in some policy, and so
there has to be an intermix, you're saying. They have to liaise with each other. There has to be, some sort of a middle ground for them to be able to function, to be able to realize,
And the second thing that about finance is one of the participants said that there are Green Climate Fund, but there are only 2 organizations they can rectify that fund. But I will be very positive in this regard, because there are some funds that we can contest internationally by our own. Like I have many projects. One of the project that is from Asia Pacific Network, that is the intergovernment organization on climate change of 22 countries. So I got that funding from there. And now we publish more than 7 papers in that research fund. We trained so many students. The thing that
are you also working on awareness?
Yeah, we have science to policy communication part of that project. And what we do in science to policy, today I'm sitting with you, this is from my project, is science to policy communication. That's why I mentioned that project. And I will report this to the Japan, that institute. But the Munir Sahab has mentioned that there is a lack of capacity. That's very important. We need to train the bureaucrats, we need to train like on climate change, till now there was not only a single university who except ComSet, who provide degree on climate change and meteorology. This is a big dilemma. So we need to train the people, and we need to, and instead of policies, like everywhere we say policy, 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 we need action. So we need to do something that we produce some action, and that is, we need to create the leader of climate change. the one person who can lead this overall campaign, and they can bring changes. So this is very important. There are different aspects. With awareness, there is a lot of awareness now, and especially when the extreme.
You think there's a lot of awareness, because there are still people that will say, dismiss it as not enough of enough importance.
When you have fear of climate change, like we have heat wave, then consecutively we have pre-monsoon, then the monsoon flooding that causes 300 deaths. So everyone is asking why it's happening. And one thing that the climate change, the people consider that it's warming. It's not only warming, it's also cold waves. Like you see that there was a heat wave, but on 19 June, there was very cold night. What happening? That when the energy of the earth is increasing, it's disturbed your temperature, it's disturbed your pressure level. So when the pressure level from northern region, from the north of the world coming down to the equator, so it causes the cold wave. But when it goes up and it makes the shape like this, so it's causing heating effect.
But
and the Pakistan is at the geographic location that where these phenomena occurring very often. And we have one study on this, that the heat wave will increase, like the number of heat wave will increase 4 times. The frequency of heat wave will increase 8 times, and the similar flooding like in monsoon, it will also continuously increasing in future. These are our model result that is issued by IPCC. There's
also, okay, quickly, we're running out of time, but there's one quick question. As far as, let's talk about the world. For example, Europe has also seen a heat wave, unprecedented this time. As far as preparedness is concerned, there's a lot of criticism. Were they prepared for it? Were they not prepared? Do you think overall the world lacks preparedness here?
In adaptation, as we mentioned, that there is preparedness, there is response, and there is scope. There are 3 things. So for the preparedness, like if I give you the example that there is a heavy monsoon, so our hospital system are not prepared. So we have to build the infrastructure. And we have to cope these events. So first we have to prepare, and then we need to respond and cope.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Would you please?
Last 2 lines. First, I will ask Humayun Saab to add 3 more organizations, those who are approved by the Green Climate Fund, that is IUCN, WWF, and
NDRMF.
No, they aren't accredited institutions from the GCF. They might be from the other. I was talking about GCF specifically.
No, NDRMF is there.
For GCF specifically,
there are now.
And UNDP as well. The GloveForce, and recently there is about biodiversity project that they have.
There has been a little confusion. What I was saying was that there are multiple lending bodies, and obviously we can tap into all of those. But the biggest one of them
is the Green Climate Fund.
The easy thing that you can join with them, and you can submit a joint proposal.
They have a lot of questions for Humayun Saab, and you can answer these.
Second thing about public awareness. I had a research in 2018, and that showed most of the students have lack of knowledge about climate change and its impact. This is about the university students, and a few percent of the students know about the impact. So there is need to prepare our young generation as well.
Definitely. Thank you so much for being with us. Siddique Humayun Saab, thank you for joining us. Munir Ahmed Saab, thank you for being with us. Dr. Shaukat Ali, Brigadier Dr. Fayaz Hussain Shah, thank you for being with us. Thank you for all of your very valuable input on this very important topic. Certainly, we touched on some of very crucial issues as far as the vulnerabilities and threats of climate change are concerned, and what are some of the measures that can be taken to combat the effects in the next coming years. Let's hope that we can all join hands, whether it's in awareness, whether it's in fighting the calamities that may result as far as, of course, the center, the provinces after the 18th Amendment, everyone together, and of course work on fairness, awareness also, which is essentially also an issue with a country that's underdeveloped, undereducated like Pakistan. Thank you so much for joining us.